Good evening, everybody. We will be going live in a couple of minutes.
Hello there, welcome to this session. Today we are looking at finding peace after trauma. So before I go into your questions for tonight's session, I'm just going to run through my scribbles, just having a look to see if you can actually see what my scribbles are. On the screen behind me, I'm going to briefly explain them really, and why solving trauma is really very, very important to you as an intuitive sensitive. So for those of you who have done the family secret quiz and followed the masterclass on that particular subject, and you now know what your ACE or AC score is, it's very helpful to you in terms of your life moving forward and how you handle and solve things. And I've seen that really quite clearly even in the last week for those of you who have managed to complete the Healing Your Inner Shame Phrase course, free mini course, which is it's new and it's part of your circle membership. It's not something that you have to pay for, it's something that is part of your circle membership. Why? Because then you don't really have any excuse other than to take yourself through it. So why is it really important for an intuitive sensitive to begin to find an element of their own peace after trauma? Now, there are different variations of trauma or how we ascertain trauma. You know, some things are really very obvious. They're really quite clear traumatic circumstances and things that are, you know, the universal definition of trauma. So most people kind of associate trauma with something that's physical rather than purely emotional. Okay, so when something is purely emotional, and let's say it's been there since you can remember, or since before you can remember, or it's been the norm as part of your process when you were growing up, it doesn't become something that is different. So trauma is it's just something that is there, but you wouldn't define it as that. So my scribbles here give quite a clear kind of picture of the impact of early life trauma in terms of emotional adversity has on your system, particularly as a sensitive. Okay, so if we look at it from this perspective, if you have an early life trauma adversity, okay, so when you were doing the family secret quiz, that's what you were looking for. Okay, so the first part of that quiz was everything to do with the markers of childhood adversity, and that is what is set out in the ACE study. Okay, the second part was relating to your life as an adult, as an intuitive sensitive person. Now, what became very, very clear in the results of that particular quiz, in how a lot of you filled it in, was that even if you had a low childhood adversity score, you still had a highly significant amount of symptoms of adversity in your adult life. Okay, so those didn't come from nowhere, they have come from somewhere, and whether you actually experienced elements of that childhood adversity firsthand or it's actual fact secondhand. So let's say, as an example, your parents consciously worked hard to avoid situations which put you into a position of emotional adversity, because perhaps they had been on the receiving end of it themselves. So we need to define what that is, and in terms of the impact and the effect on the body, I'm going to use it as this example. Okay, so early life adversity, looking at it from the basis of emotions. Okay, so these are some of the things that you can clarify as having a huge emotional impact. Parental humiliation. Okay, so anything that was along the lines of actively trying to humiliate you in front of others or just generally, that is classed as an early life adversity. Put downs. You may think, well, it was a little bit of fun, it was a little bit of teasing. It actually still has a huge impact on your system. So put downs, teasing, again, same thing. Silent treatment, that one's a powerful one. That has a huge impact on your physical and emotional health if you experience that in your early life. Name calling, okay, yelling and screaming, again, because it puts your system on high alert, and it means that it's been programmed from a very early stage in life. And generally kind of emotionally erratic outbursts, so a level of unpredictability, so where environments have been unpredictable. So just to run through that again, because I'm not sure you can see it clearly on your screen: parental humiliation, put downs, teasing, silent treatment, name calling, yelling, screaming, emotionally erratic outbursts. Okay, all of those, if you experience them as a sensitive early in your life, those will have had a big impact on your physical body. Okay, why? Because it becomes the child self's stress creating trauma. Okay, so it's interpreted in your system, so definitely in the nervous system, as trauma. Okay, so it becomes a stress interpreted as trauma. So if you, let's say that this was sporadic, but let's say if that becomes something, or a variety of this is chronic. Okay, so what is the effect of chronic toxic criticism? Okay, well, chronic toxic criticism and humiliation is a very strong level of childhood adversity. Okay, what does it lead to? And this is the slightly frightening part, because there is undeniable proof, and I'm talking well and truly undeniable truth, that it has this impact and this effect. It leads to lifelong immune dysfunction and health challenges. Okay, so just to run through that again: chronic toxic criticism and humiliation is childhood adversity, and that childhood adversity leads to lifelong immune dysfunction and health challenges. Okay, so sometimes they show up early and sometimes they show up a little bit later, but that pressure on the system over a prolonged period of time, that is what it creates. And I can say that really clearly and categorically because there is absolute proof, very, very clear proof in continual studies that that is the case. Okay, so why does that happen? Why does it convert in the body into chronic lifelong immune dysfunction, issues with the immune system, and other health challenges? Okay, why does it do that? Why does something like put downs, teasing, silent treatment, name calling, yelling and screaming, and emotionally erratic outbursts that you've been on the receiving end of have that impact? Yes, of course, it creates a stress, but why does it do this to you? Why does it have that much of an impact on someone's body? Well, it's because it becomes stored in the system as a lifelong feeling of loss. Okay? So when you have this lifelong feeling of loss as something that's your backdrop, that's your that's your default setting, that's part of the the very framework of who you are, it means that everything that you ever find in life where you think, well, this is fun, this is joyous, all this kind of stuff, you then start to find at some point or another the feeling of loss around it. Okay, so either that you feel guilty for having it, or you're afraid of losing it. So it becomes that whole abandonment thing. Okay, so it either becomes, I'm going to lose it, or I'm going to fear losing it. Okay, so when it comes to something that you really like and when you really enjoy. So, what does toxic stress do? this level of toxic stress? Well, it really does. It hurts the body and it hurts the brain. It doesn't make someone strong. It doesn't make someone full of grit. It actually has a significant impact on a person's system, okay? And it significantly reduces well-being for life, okay? Because it breaks down bodily systems that would otherwise help you to be physically and emotionally strong. Now, that's being really quite blunt with it, okay? Which is why this session is about finding peace after trauma, because I'm making it very, very clear how important it is to start that internal process of finding peace after your system has been through a level of trauma, okay? Using these as an example, because lots of you would just class these as, well, it was how it was done, you know, that's what people do. They tease each other, they put them down. Yeah, I had the silent treatment. Yeah, I had name calling, yelling and screaming, but, you know, parents were going through a sticky moment. So, and yeah, there was some emotionally erratic outbursts, but the rest of the time it was fairly okay. Or there weren't any emotionally erratic outbursts, but yeah, the silent treatment, yeah, I kind of understand that one. You know, there was no communication, it was just the silent treatment. So all of those are kind of things that we're all at some level or another used to or aware of. And on a sensitive system, it has a deep, deep impact. So before you then start panicking and going, whoa, am I going to have a lifelong scenario of immune dysfunction and other health challenges? What are the other health challenges? Well, known. This is known, okay? This is countless aspects of research. It has an impact on not only immune dysfunction, but heart disease, diabetes, weight. So your ability to manage weight, all of these kind of things, all has a direct, very, very significant impact on. So how do you solve it? Okay, so before you start worrying and panicking, how do you really solve this? How do you go, whoa, if that has all built up in my system over a long period of time, yeah, absolutely, it built up in my system. I can tell you categorically now, I had every single one of these on a constant reel, I would say. No let up ever of any of these, I would say, very, very clearly. No let up whatsoever. And yes, I'm a living example of how that, you know, chronic toxic criticism and humiliation has an impact on your system. Mine has gone too far. It went too far. Yes, I have extreme immune dysfunction, and as a result, you know, significant health challenges. Now, why is it not at a level where it knocks me out, makes it very, very difficult to function, makes it possibly, you know, life challenging and even long-term life threatening? Why is it that I can function perfectly well, where yes, it's part of my life, but it doesn't rule my life? Okay, it means that I can carry on regardless and enjoy a full experience where it minimizes its impact on my engagement in life. Well, the way, in my view, on how you solve this is exactly what I've just given you. Okay, this is how. Why? Because it releases the pressure in the system, releases all the pressure, and it allows you to then find who you are, that sense of self, the sense of your own identity, your sense of the authentic self. The authentic self isn't something that you have to go and find. It's always already with you. It's already part of you. But it's a case of revealing it. And if you've had all of these as examples in your life, as parts of your life experience, whether they are early in your life or they have been part of your life, through your life, let's see, it's come through, let's say a partner or an ex-partner, where this has been part of their early experience and they've taken it out on you in your adult life. How do you solve all this? Well, what I've just given you, as I say, which is releasing the inner shame freeze. Okay, so releasing the inner shame freeze course, which is what I've given you as a circle member. It's there for you. Please use it. Please do it. Please use it. It's a short mini course. It's not going to take up a huge portion of your life. Lots of people have done it already. Lots of members have done it already, and went through it in an evening because they decided, whoa, okay, this really is relevant to my life. And the comments so far as that short course is concerned, is that, or they are rather, extremely strong and have had very, very positive results. The main result being that you no longer feel that internal pressure. Okay? It means that there's a release of a pressure that you didn't know necessarily was there. Now all of these things, even if you didn't experience them as part of your early foundation, they have been in your family line. Okay? Which is why it's now coming to a place where it's really important to release that trauma from your system, so you're not having to carry the burden of that around. And how do you do that? By releasing toxic shame. Okay, so hopefully in what I've said so far, that gives you a little bit of an insight into why it's really important that you address the shame issue. Okay, the shame issue is excuse me, what you hide from and what your family line hides from. It's that unconscious depth that makes you worry what other people think of you, makes you people please, makes you sensitive to criticism, makes you worry about doing and saying the right thing, makes you worried about moving things forward. Are you going to be approved of? Makes you feel guilty, even exhausts you. Okay, all of those experiences in life are as a result of feeling toxic shame, whether it's yours or it's something that you have accumulated from other family members through your life or absorbed through the lifetimes. Okay, it's there. The release from that is extraordinary. Okay, so let's get on to your questions. Okay, so Conchita, what if the silent treatment, etc., also was from bullies? Okay, yes, again. So I assume you mean it was also from bullies in your life, let's say from your school environment and that kind of thing. Yes, absolutely. It still has a huge impact, especially if, let's say as an example, if you had in your early life experience parents who behaved really quite well, and but you experienced this kind of behaviour from a bullying environment at school. If you didn't feel protected, if someone didn't go in and then make it very clear that was not happening in your life, and you felt very exposed to it, it still has the same level of impact, because it feels like you're not protected. It feels like you're exposed and left to the elements. Okay, so the child self feels naked in a world of wolves kind of thing. It feels vulnerable. It feels very, very vulnerable. And then it takes other methods to seek lines of protection, so it keeps people away. It decides that actually it's safer to be self-sufficient, to never allow anybody in. That when therefore, as time moves forward, it then impacts relationships. So you test people to be absolutely sure that they are trustworthy. And then let's say you have someone come into your life who's incredibly charming and very nice, and says all the right things, and you go, wow, this is great, this is nice. And then you find out later that it was all a ruse to get you to do what they want. How come you fell for it? How come you got caught in that? It's because the child self has felt exposed, it's felt left out into the elements, it's felt vulnerable, it's felt unprotected. Okay, so when it sees this first sign of some something where it's going to feel comforted and protected by someone who's going to say all the right things, yeah, absolutely, this part of you will fall for it, hook, line, and sinker, because it's got a level of shame hanging around it, which says, well, wow, I didn't think I deserved this. I didn't think I was worthy of this nice interaction and behavior, rather than seeing it as for what it is in those situations, which is someone using it as a manipulation tool. If you don't have an energy that matches this, it's much more comfortable to see it where it is as a manipulation tool, okay? Because you don't have the shame to then judge it. It's just something that you see and observe it and go, okay, not my thing, rather than feel that it's something that dramatically impacts you. Okay, so Brigitte, hi Heidi, can trauma we experience later in life still have an impact on the body too? Yes, of course. And particularly as a sensitive, what it does is it's a compounding aspect. So let's say, as an example, you've coped well through your life with different things that have occurred, and you continue to bounce back as far as those are concerned. It continues to compound on your system over a long period of time, bearing in mind that every sensitive has been born with a system that is highly aware of stress, because for you to be highly sensitive, it means that your mother was experiencing stress when she carried you. Okay, when she was carrying you, it means that she experienced a significant amount of stress, which then means for you in your life, it means that your body struggles to manage its cortisol levels. It struggles to balance things through what's called the HPA axis, which has a strong involvement with your adrenals, and that's why lots of sensitives then start having symptoms in their life which are associated with the adrenals being tired, or things like chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue is a classic autoimmune example of your system being so strung out that it can't actually support itself anymore, and that's why it would show as chronic fatigue. So yes, other things have an impact and compound through your lifetime, absolutely. Okay, so this is MC, life code 1. Heidi, what if you don't know about your mother's or your grandmother's shame situation? I've got a blank there. Okay, so what you're talking about there is the shame course. Okay, so the shame course, which is the free one, part of your circle membership, and the exercise in that is looking into your history, because yes, we have epigenetic factors that impact our life as we move forward in terms of the stress that we store in our system. We store it in our DNA. It can be things that have been passed through the generations as a survival and protection mechanism. So maybe a survival or protection mechanism is never be seen, and you may well find that that's back through a couple of generations ago, that was the message, and it stays with the generations as time moves through, because it becomes something that makes sense. It makes sense. Don't be seen, because again, it's survival. I won't survive if I'm seen, as in emotionally seen or physically seen. So if you don't know what your history is, okay, so we're talking here, what if you don't know about your mother's or your grandmother's shame situation? What you need to do, because this is it's not a logical process, okay, this is about you going through a feeling process. So what you do is you feel, okay, you feel through the eyes of in this scenario, your mother as a child. So you look out into the world through the eyes of your mother, okay, as an example. You look out through her eyes and you see and you interpret the energy, the feelings that are going on in your body as you are looking out through her world. So you're imagining your own inner world as looking out through her eyes. So if in that experience and you're looking out through her eyes and you think, well, I don't know what I feel kind of, don't feel anything, or I feel confused or a bit kind of stunned and I don't know, I don't know. Well, that may actually be a numbness, okay, which is then she doesn't feel, it might then be looking out through your mother's eyes and goes, well, she can't feel anything, she's confused. So what the shame is then, perhaps, is that through your mother's line is she feels confusion and numbness, can't feel, so disassociated, can't feel, and becomes confused. So it may well be then that the that shame, that family shame, is confusion and numbness. Okay, so it's mental confusion and numbness. So every time something comes up in life, in your life, that means change or something new or dynamic or an opportunity, you then immediately start to feel confused and numb and think, well, I don't think I can enjoy this. And that impacts things like relationships, close relationships, because as soon as you then start to feel emotional around it, you then come up with the confusion and the numbness, and you think, well, maybe it's not right for me. Okay, just using that as an example. So it's a case of, if you think, well, I don't know, it's a case of going in and having a feel and looking out through that parent's eyes. Okay, and it's about then starting to feel a level of self-compassion. Okay, because when, this kind of behavior, so humiliation, put downs, teasing, silent treatment, name calling, all of that has been something that you've been on the receiving end of, and you suddenly have a full realization as far as that's concerned, yes, of course you're going to feel an incredible amount of anger. You're going to feel furious, absolutely furious, that somehow or another you missed out on life because of all this stuff that you've had to concentrate on figuring, working through it. So, oh God, this is tiring. All of that, and why do I have to deal with this? I really don't want to. But if you then look out through the eyes of your parent, as an example, who perhaps utilized this or said this, if you look out through their eyes as that child self, you then start to feel some of their own child self vulnerabilities, understand them, and then start to feel not compassion necessarily for their behavior, because it doesn't make it right, but a self-compassion, okay, for that particular experience that you've found yourself passing through, which then means that you start to come in to that space of finding that peace after that element of trauma. Okay, right, so just bear with me a second. Okay, so Janet saying, Heidi, are family secrets the same as family love wounds? Yes, extremely similar. Yes, an interpretation of something very similar. The love wounds are how we understand what love is and how we express that love. The shame, so the family shame, is a little bit more of what's hidden. So the love wounds are what's the message, how is love interpreted. So, what do we see as being an idea of love? So maybe love in what we saw in terms of a love wound would be rejection. So then we assume that we're only loved when we're rejected, and that becomes something a little bit skew-whiff. It doesn't make sense, and it means it makes it very difficult for you to have a functional relationship, because it means, oh, well, I'm only loved if I'm rejected. Oh, so I can't have in my life unless it's someone who rejects me. Oh, well, I don't want that, so I'll have no one. That kind of thing. So that's more of the love wound, whereas the shame would be actually what that does to you. Okay, what having that particular love wound does to you, the impact that it has on you, and acknowledging what impact that has on you then releases that in terms of that relationship with shame. Shame is kind of how we interpret vulnerability, how we interpret who we're allowed to be, or how we interpret keeping away from other people our true selves, and sort of hiding a component of ourselves away, protection mechanism. Okay, Fiona. Hi Heidi, I completed the exercise on shame over the weekend, which was very insightful. It was emotional for me and my body has felt tense since. I've also had headaches the last 2 days, wondering if this has anything to do with clearing out stuff. Would appreciate your input. Thanks Fiona. Yes, it will be absolutely about clearing things out, and the pressure though, head pressure, will be because when there's a shame to release, quite often it can get a little bit stuck because we think, well, who am I without that? What's my identity then? Not sure about that. So it can take a little bit more time than what we had originally planned for it to leave the system. And I suspect that's what it is, Fiona, is that it's still processing, it's still finding its way out, especially for you as a life code 7, because sevens, I have a thingy here, sevens need to process the feeling parts, the emotional parts and all of that. It's not something that they can go, oh, okay, well that's done and cut off from that. It takes some little bit of time, takes a little bit of digestion as far as that's concerned. Okay. Okay, Fanveer, I do apologise if I pronounce that incorrectly, life code 5. Hi Heidi, I've been working on toxic shame. Did go through the course twice. My soreness in my body, especially shoulders, hips, has flared up. Feel drained out and mental fogginess has creeped in. Any insight would be helpful, please. Okay, yes. Again, this is a big dollop of shame leaving your system, and certainly as a life code 5, it will be almost like a shame for shame leaving your system. It's like a kind of double hit that you found it, and therefore giving it permission to leave the system. So it can take a little bit of time for it to move through. Also, I can feel for you, and for quite a few of you, it's like this really strong tiredness. That part of your system wants to depart from the physicality. It wants to, depart from your physical body. It just wants to leave, just sort of step out of yourself, and it's very tired. It's lethargic. It's kind of gone, oh gosh, I'm really tired, and it wants to zone out and disappear. Okay, so if you're feeling that, just type in and let me know, because I think this might be something that we need to have a little look at to see whether or see if you can move it. Okay, so let's just have a look. Just give me an indication as to whether that feels like it's something going on in you. It's kind of tired. I've got pressure in my head and pressure in my system. Feels like it's all heavy and tiring. Yeah, the pressure in my physicality is tiring. That's the message that's going through. Okay. Yeah, it's exhausting. Yes, it's kind of like an exhaustion, an invisible backpack. Yes. Okay, so we're just going to focus for a minute on moving that and cleansing that, because what it does is it clouds your thoughts. So it's something that sort of mists over your thoughts and mists over your clarity in life. Just as a point of view, finding a sort of sense of clarity, you then get this kind of mist that obscures your vision, and you think, oh, tired. I know a while back we did a thing about the adrenals, and this is another kind of layer of it, but it feels to me it's like it's the child self feeling tired before I even got here. Oh, okay, right, this is interesting. So it's kind of like the womb stress. Okay. So what happens is, for a sensitive, what happens is when you were carried in the womb, there then becomes this. So for a sensitive system to develop means that there was an additional stress, and it means that there was enough stress for your mother's placenta not to protect you from her heightened cortisol levels, which is the kind of stress hormone. So her higher stress hormones will impact your system, and also then you would have created higher stress hormones in the womb. So therefore, it almost became tiring before you even came in or allowed your physicality. So I can feel that in the environment of for you as a collective, in the environment that you were housed in, rather than necessarily that you brought it in with you. And it's that kind of, oh, I'm tired. Gosh, this feels like it's tiring already. I haven't even come in yet, and it feels like it's tiring. So that's the bit that we're going to move. Okay, so it feels then that you're a little bit more zippy about things, and your energy feels more excited about it. It's entry into the physical world. Okay, so it's an energy memory rather than a head physical memory. Okay, so it's an energy memory. How can I explain that? So it emanates throughout the whole of the system. It's an energy memory rather than just purely in the head space. So those of you who get kind of tension headaches, and I think quite a few of you do, again, it's that heightened, like the stress hormone wandering around the body. It's, gosh, this is heavy. It's hard work. It's hard work being physical. Okay, interesting. So, gosh, I was born starving, zippy. What does that mean? Right. Okay, I've been having pain there too. Okay, right. Okay, so can see this. My placenta was not there. Oh gosh. Okay, so in that kind of scenario, would have been really exposed to cortisol levels. I seriously need 48 hours of sleep at least. Yes, because that's the adrenals going, oh gosh, I am just so tired. Why all siblings aren't intuitive sensitive? Why is it just me and my family? Well, because the intuitive sensitivity means that you are actively participating within that development cycle. It doesn't mean to say that they are not sensitive, but in denial. Denial, as in, that big old river, it is a powerful thing to keep people away from the true selves and a strong element of their own healing cycle. Huge, very, very, very powerful. And it doesn't mean that they're happy. It doesn't mean to say that a core of a person is happy, because when denial is present, it means that it's difficult to be happy. Okay, very challenging. Whereas if the core of you isn't in denial, which it isn't, it's much easier to really enter that process of being truly happy, naturally happy, because there isn't that big thing in the way. Okay, so right, what we're going to do is we're going to go in now, and we're just going to do it as a brief experience for you to go into that sort of energy of you kind of drifting before you came into the physical world. So very feels like very formed, as in, the whole of you formed just before you're due to come into the physical world. So I'd say sort of, 8.5, maybe, between about maybe 7 and 8.5 months, kind of sort of feeling, fully formed, starting that presence coming into the physical world, feeling tired already, to release that frequency and release that vibration. Okay, so won't take us long. Just going to do this really quite quickly, and I'm not going to say it to you, no loo break, because we need to hold it quite strong, because this is a slippery one. It kind of goes, it's like a bar of soap. You hold it and go with wet hands and it'll go ooh. So I've got hold of it right now, and so I don't want to let that one go because it's slippery. So no loo break. You have to sit with it for a second whilst we find it and move it. Okay, so close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Deep breath in, slow breath out, allowing your thoughts to roll around your head and disappear on the out breath, allowing the body to relax and the mind to remain alert. Take your attention to the solar plexus. Feel your awareness being drawn in through the solar plexus. And as your awareness is being drawn in through the solar plexus, feel it becoming smaller and smaller. Feel yourself walking through, wandering through the internal corridor, getting smaller and smaller. And feel it coming down to the size of your baby self. Your baby self still able to move, to operate, to find its way through the internal corridor. And in this space, feel your awareness pushing a door open, and feel yourself falling into it, falling into the space behind the door. In here is the womb space, the space you first lived in before you came in to the physical world, manifest as you are today. Just allow yourself to feel the frequency and vibration in this space. The sound, the weight. Allow yourself to become aware if the energy of this space was light or heavy. And in here, begin to feel your mother's frequency and vibration. Feel in this moment of gestation whether you feel you can trust her as you come out into the physical world. Does she feel to you, does her energy feel emotionally mature enough? Or does your psyche feel apprehensive about coming into your physicality and wondering if this person is able to look after you? Just allow your system to feel the stress, her stress, your stress. Feel them as separated and combined. And begin to feel in this space any heaviness in the womb energy that was carried there, that was circulating at the point just before your birth. And begin to feel the heaviness and the burden of that frequency. Just allow yourself to feel it deep in this womb space. Now in your mind, begin to allow this energy to start its cleanse. Feel it lifting, and feel the energy in the outer world, your mother, feeling supported. that her energy feels supported and able to protect you. Just allow yourself, even if it's for a moment, the experience of that energy, and begin to draw on that strength and feel that strength, frequency and vibration starting to flood into that internal space. And as it does, begin to feel the baby self's adrenals strengthening. Feel your body's own protection mechanisms starting to build and develop and strengthen. Before you came in to the physical world. And in this space, in the internal corridor, just allow yourself to feel a power and a strength. As the baby self lets go of the struggle. And allow yourself to float in the space of feeling, before you came into this world, that there was no struggle. And in this space, feel the lungs expanding. And more energy and air coming into your system. And feel it as you pass through this frequency out into the physical world. And in this internal space, begin to feel the strengthening of the solar plexus. As you feel the child self step from this internal space back out into the corridor, and this time begin to see or sense the energy as stronger and brighter. As you feel it making its way back through the internal corridor to the physical self. And feel this energy of who you are begin to spread through the body. In your mind, throwing roots out from the bottom of your feet, planting them deep into the earth. Feel your inner and outer world realigning. As you allow your awareness to spread through the body, focusing on your breathing. Very gently bring your awareness back into the room, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, so on a collective level, really quite sort of bunched up and feeling a lot of tension before we came into the physical world. Really quite a distinct feeling difference between your inner world in this womb space and the feeling of your mother in the outer space, and feeling her worry. There's quite a significant amount of worry filtered through to the sort of different layers, really quite strong worry, different sort of layers of worry, different types of worry coming through and filtering through, and feeling that pressure of being almost like when I said, for some of you, was she mature enough? And there was a really strong no. And feeling that you were, even as the baby self, having to have this kind of strong level of maturity even before you. So there wasn't this chance to be weak, to be vulnerable before you even properly entered life. So kind of feeling this pressure to be mature before you're even born, really quite strong. There's this sort of strong contradiction as a collective frequency and vibration. So the relief to let that go was really quite big on a collective level, and there was a big chest expansion, big lung expansion, as in a deeper breath and a deeper feeling of presence, and then feeling much more comfortable with coming through into the physical world. That was what it was on a collective level. Okay, so I'll be able to have a look at some of your comments in a minute. I noticed actually just before I move on to looking at some of the things that you experienced during that, some of you are asking about whether you're premature and wondering whether that had an impact. It has a massive impact. Okay, it has a huge impact. Partly because of the abandonment stuff, because obviously then prematures have to go into separation and all of that kind of stuff, but it's the impact on pain. Apparently premature babies have a huge amount of pain exposure, because all of the the nerves etc aren't fully formed, so actually it's really painful. Very, very painful. Those premature babies experience pain in a very strong way. Almost the pain of exposed skin, pain of it's not fully formed yet. The whole system's not fully there, and also people forget that premature babies often have had lots of injections and tubings and invasive things and all of that kind of stuff, but people forget that, and it's known, again, countless research shows that people who were born premature have disrupted pain interpreters, so that actually their system does significantly feel pain stronger than the average person, because there is a disruption. Yes, it does have a significant impact, to answer that question. I felt very unsure of my mother. She was very stressed and distracted. Yes, wanted to come out, but not sure. Okay, what about induced labour birth? Does that have an effect? Yes, I think it does. Yep. I can't remember exactly. It does have an impact, and I can't remember the exact one. But again, it does have it has a significant impact. Okay, so fear in the womb. I would say on a collective level, there was an awful lot of fear in the womb. Yes. Oh, so Linda, you're saying that your son was very premature and you're feeling guilty about what he's been through. The factor is of life. All of these things are not anyone's fault. Okay, they are parts of life experiences, and human behavior is evolving. Okay, we're now very much in an age where we're starting, and even though you may think, well, is it or is it not? This kind of barbaric nature. So the sort of barbaric component of human nature is starting to go through that resolution and dissolving. It really is starting to go through that. So if you think about it, a lot of information about us coming into this world and that process of it was unavailable, completely unavailable until very, very, very recent times, really very recent times. And so it means that those things adjust and and become, much better and much stronger. So, there's plenty of things in life where we've all made mistakes, we've all done things in an imperfect way. But my point, as far as that's concerned, is that level of responsibility that you experience now, which is that level of self-responsibility, is a huge contribution to not only those in your immediate vicinity, but to consciousness, because it moves everything forward. It moves things through in a stronger way, in a faster way, and it means that you can then really we can all start to really experience the next layer of human awareness and consciousness, which isn't possible unless we dissolve aspects of trauma, okay? Because trauma keeps things in the past. So it's not about feeling guilty or dissecting those parts of ourselves. It's about the resolution of those. It's the dissolving of that, and it's the dissolving of that into our own wisdom, okay, which then leads to that high level of transformation. And you come to that point now in your own development process where it's time to really dissolve some of those frequencies that are part of the history and have been in the past, part of our survival. But actually, survival and how humanity moves forward actually is in releasing of those traumatic energy frequencies and vibrations. It's not in the keeping of them. Whereas in previous scenarios, it was about survival, was about keeping those, because they were warnings. And our survival as life moves forward is actually in the release of those, because we will have to move our own brain development forward. Because why is there such a pressure for that to happen? Because things like technology and the evolving of that and how things are moving forward, technology is moving faster than human consciousness is. So in order for even human consciousness to survive and not be outdated in its own right, it has to change, it has to shift, and it has to evolve. And part of that is the release of trauma. Now, sensitives go through these experiences at least 5 years before the collective does. Okay, so now it's coming to that point where you're really beginning to recognize and dissolve those things, rather than it be an indication of you moving forward. So in being able to recognize and dissolve those things, you open a path for everybody else to be able to follow through that. Why can you do that first? Because you've got that access to that nervous system where it's more finely tuned, it's in sync with things, and everybody else is a bit kind of slack and taking up the sort of trotting up behind. So even though I'm saying to you it has a significant impact, and it does, without doubt, it has a massive, major impact, but it doesn't mean then it's not something we can't do anything about, or that we shouldn't do anything about. It's exactly the other opposite. We have to do something about it, because it's about our contribution to the evolution of human awareness, because it can't stay in its barbaric form. And this kind of behaviour, the humiliation, the put down, the teasing, slandering, all that, it's barbaric, it's basic, it's antiquated. It's not how, it's not the way that human awareness and consciousness is evolving, or meant to be going in the direction it's going into. Okay? And we have to shift. The pressure to shift is huge. The pressure is enormous. Everyone's worried about artificial intelligence and kind of robotics and all of this kind of stuff taking over the world, and all this kind of thing. Well, the fact is, human development it's got to move faster than the the artificial intelligence, because this artificial intelligence doesn't exist on the frequency of humiliation, put downs, teasing, silent treatments, name calling, yelling and screaming, and emotionally erratic outbursts. It has a level of consistency to it. So human consciousness has to develop a level of consistency to it. Okay? And that's what it's about. That's why it's really about identifying what those components are over your life history now, and over your life history in terms of your what's passed through the generations, because it's finding that bing and setting it free of your own system, so you can actually move. You can move forward. It's not. It doesn't then feel that you're tied to something or tethered to something that's your fault. Whereas previously, you will have had this perception that, oh, I'm not moving forward. It's somehow or another. It must be my fault. It must be me. It must be me. And it's not. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so Heidi, what about the proposed fourth layer of the brain, the digital layer? Will it bypass human consciousness? Well, if you think about a lot of, children now, they're already developing different sort of pathways and different mechanisms, but at the same time, a lot of children now have been brought in on a different frequency and different vibration. Okay, as in a different understanding of how they're brought into the world, a different level of respect as far as that's concerned. The criticism of a lot of young people now is, oh, they're the snowflake generation, that they've got no welly, they've got no this or that to adversity. Well, they're not meant to. They're not meant to, true grit is not about being strong. We've seen quite clearly, actually, it breaks down bodily systems. It doesn't make you, it doesn't make some levels of adversity, yes, absolutely, within reason, within a sort of a line of challenge, does really sort of develop and evolve the person. But there is too much evidence to say that, kind of stuff doesn't. It doesn't do anything for people. And if you look at a lot of young minds now, they have an understanding, a strong understanding of what's nice and what's not nice. And it's almost as though it doesn't have to be taught. It's something that is an intrinsic part of their framework of who they are. Okay, so let's have a look at some of your other questions. Okay. Okay, just bear with me a second. Okay, so this is Noreen. Heidi, I never considered how I was treated as a child to be traumatic. It's only as an adult that I can see it. Did the child part still feel traumatized even though I thought it was normal? Sometimes I think it would be easier to be less conscious. Yes, the child self, the child part still feels very much traumatized even though it's considered normal. Or we think it's normal. Or we consider it normal. It's not until later upon reflection, actually that's not quite right. And that's part of the survival mechanism. It's well known, as an example, in psychiatry that people who have been the most emotionally traumatized as children stay around their parents a lot in adulthood. And you think, well, why do they do that? Why do they do that? Well, because they then become really programmed to be so reliant on the adult, as in the parent, even though the behaviour towards them was unsavoury. So it becomes really locked in. It becomes hugely enmeshed. It becomes almost bind, because the child feels as though it doesn't have a life force without the disruptive parent. And so it's well known in psychiatry that a lot of deeply traumatized people, who've been on the receiving end of some really unpleasant behavior from parental factors, are still really strongly around them later on in life. It takes guts to become self-aware enough to be able to release yourself from that kind of restriction and restraining mechanism of not being able to find who you are. It takes guts, and you've got the guts. You've got a lot of guts, because you're saying here, well, it would be easier sometimes to be less conscious. No, actually, it wouldn't, and it isn't. It isn't. It creates a massive pressure on a person's system. To realise what you're doing for your own world, your own internal world, is you're giving yourself the opportunity to release into more of yourself and more into your own sense of your own self, your own sense of your own life. And initially it might feel like it's that sort of separating from something because it's familiar. But when you come into that space of who your own energy is, it feels like a truly freeing experience, because it doesn't mean to say then you're completely separated from those people in your life who maybe have been the source of trauma. It becomes a place where you understand their source of trauma, which made them into this unconscious space where they behaved in such a way. But it doesn't mean to say then you feel compelled that you have to make them change it. It just becomes something that you feel a compassion for. But at the same time, you don't have to fix or punish it. So the hurt's not there. The vibration of hurt is no longer part of your own frequency. It means you're free. You're free to be in your own energy space, even if they're still in your vicinity. Okay, but it becomes a scenario where you understand, those components of human suffering in its many different forms. Okay, so Joan saying, "Hi Heidi, thanks for the topics. I'm wondering if we go through the grieving process when we clear our inner selves after trauma, even though we're better off with that part gone." Absolutely, you go through the grieving process. Absolutely, completely and utterly, because it's about reconciling those components of the self, understanding where it's come from, what parts you're keeping, what parts you're letting go of, all of that. Absolutely, completely and utterly, it's normal to go through grieving completely. So Linda, hi Heidi, the course was brilliant but tough. So worth doing though. Do we only have to do the releasing once and it's gone, or do we have to keep releasing over time? I felt so much better after releasing the toxic shame, but I wondered if I had got rid of it all. Thanks Heidi for giving us this very important course. If you feel like you want to go back in again and do it, absolutely go back in again and do it. And there's always more layers to find. There's always more things to solve, but you may well find that actually it doesn't have the name toxic shame. Maybe it has a different name to it that will then surface later. So as an example, it may well be that maybe part of you, and just using this as an example, I'm not saying you do, but maybe part of you shuts people out in relationships. Maybe when someone starts to get really close, you find ways and means of extracting yourself, moving away, because you feel unworthy of having that love. Well, you could say, or maybe it's because I feel unworthy of having that love, or you could actually say that that's a different layer of shame. Okay, so what I'm saying is it maybe shows in different ways or at different layers or different times as to what is relevant to you at any given moment. Okay. Okay, so this Metadoc, this gives total sense to me, Heidi, and gives me hope that I can reverse the autoimmune disorders that I have been diagnosed with, or at least prevent them from getting any worse. Yes, absolutely. I'd say you can have a huge impact on, if you know, with the autoimmune stuff, huge impact on making it so it's easier to manage, and they don't have to continually express themselves in an uncomfortable way. My CNS is totally overloaded, but now I have something to work with. Thank you for your brilliant presentation and explanations. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. Pleasure. Veronique, Heidi, what has come up after the release is, who am I without the burden of the family shame on my shoulders? How do you handle this feeling? A little bit of anxiety there. Will I still fit in my life? Yes, absolutely. That will be something that comes up, and as we looked at earlier, it's that whole grieving thing, something changing, something different. But as you go through that experience, it's not a case of shutting it down or shutting it out. It's kind of going, oh, isn't that fascinating, and observing it and seeing what it is. Because when you come into this space of thinking, well, who am I without the toxic shame? Who am I without the family shame? Who am I? What is my identity? Well, it can feel naked, as in that you don't have an identity, because that, let's say that toxic shame's been active for generations, for a long, long time. So it becomes something cleansed, it becomes something neutral, and you don't understand that neutral space, you don't understand what that looks like or that scenery is. It's a case of just observing the scenery, just seeing what it is, rather than thinking that you have to do something immediately with it. It's about kind of ascertaining where you're at, where you are. Doesn't mean to say that you have to, throw everything out of your life or disrupt everything. It just means that the landscape's changed. Okay, it just means the landscape's changed, and it's about getting used to that different landscape and what's on it, and that unfamiliar territory. Okay, so it's giving yourself a little bit of moment's peace to be able to observe that new landscape. It does take a little bit of time to get used to, okay, because when the shame has been strong and it's been, there, as I say, for generations, it then becomes you then become your own identity, and you go, oh, what's that then? I don't know what it is. And it's not a case of going to find it, it's already there, so it will start to come out, it will start to then show itself. Okay, so sometimes it's a little bit of patience, about that kind of patiently waiting, that gestation time. So it's a little bit, if I had the tree here, that 1-10, and then that 3 energy, so the whole self, and that's 3 energy. The 3 energy is a little bit of that gestation time. Okay, that little bit of that moment, that pause moment. If you think about, again, the gestation part in anything in life is the female, the energy that passes through who we are, passes through the female, has to pass through the female. So, your mother, you've been in there. You were in there, that gestation time. You spent 9 months or a little bit less in there or whatever, or a little bit over, of that gestation, that time of forming and that formation. So when something becomes new in your life and you're entering a new space and a new energy, first of all, it's you're identifying yourself as the whole self, which is, again, you could say the authentic self, and then you pass into that 3, that gestation time, that time where it pauses to form. So it pauses to form. So as you go through that kind of release and that opening and that almost like a little bit of a grieving process, it's not going to hurry itself. Okay, but if you look at the 3 energy, there's a strong, there's a long and strong connection from the 3 to the soul frequency, the soul vibration. So, it's about those 2 components, that waiting and the soul energy of who your own identity kind of filtering and passing, and in terms of its communication between that gestation time and the formation. But you've also got that whole self being very aware of that new essence, that new beginning. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that kind of makes sense to you as far as that's concerned. Okay. Okay, so I'm not sure if that's Carol or Corolla. Is everyone whose mother stressed during pregnancy an intuitive sensitive person, or is there other things that can impact the development of the nervous system, as in a narc or normal variation? Okay, well, a narcissist could be described, okay, this is, as something quite really, really strong, as in a case of someone with a sensitized system in complete and utter denial. Complete denial to the extent where they shut off any relationship with weakness, which it then becomes this sort of grandiose sense of their own identity, because sometimes that grandiose sense of their own identity can also be a strong deprivation within themselves, very, very strong deprivation within themselves. So you could say that, yes, how is a narcissistic character developed? Well, there's two components with that. You could say it's an extreme emotional abandonment and some kind of high level of adversity connected in with that as an early framework. Let's say if that person has got more kind of sociopathic tendencies, that is a different wiring in the brain, so to speak. But those behaviours are triggered still by certain environments and all of that kind of stuff. But you could also say that certain narcissistic behaviour is actually a sensitive in extreme, and I'm talking extreme denial, so far removed from any sense of connection and disassociation that actually it comes out in a narcissistic behaviour. Not in all scenarios, but in some of them, yes. Okay, so in terms of intuitive sensitivity, that becomes, what that is you have a connection to the empathic component of yourself, which is that sort of strong level of identity with another being, and where you've kind of, and in a lot of scenarios, intuitive sensitives actually are the offspring of narcs, in a lot of, because you had to be this person who really was aware of someone else's emotions, so far aware of them, you had to preempt them, to judge them always ahead of time, or kind of almost in some situations as a survival mechanism, to always be aware and always be completely empathically connected to how someone feels, because without it you wouldn't have survived. So there are many of those kind of situations and scenarios. So whether it's a normal or a narc variation, it depends, I would say, sometimes, not always, on the level of denial. Okay. A narcissist will never, ever, ever own their own weakness. Ever own their weakness. Someone with a true, strong narcissistic character will never own it. But an intuitive sensitive owns it. Okay, it's there's a difference within that. we own our own. And so what I'm saying to you is never underestimate that power of the ownership of your own emotions. It's powerful, powerful, powerful. Much more powerful than any narc will ever be. Because that ownership gives you a level of truth. And when you've got a level of truth, you can see. You can see anything. You can see. Okay? But sometimes finding or understanding what that level of truth is actually owning trauma and resolving it, dissolving it, owning it, resolving it, dissolving it, same kind of thing. Why would you want to do it? Because you want to access truth. And you can't access truth without ownership of feeling. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Lena, is inflammation also related? Yep, absolutely. I have a frozen shoulder now for months. Do you have any idea about the reason I have that? Okay, again, inflammation. You see, adversity also creates inflammation. Okay, any kind of chronic inflammation in the body. C-reactive proteins, positives, antibodies, which means then the immune system kind of attacking itself. All of it is inflammation related. All inflammation markers. Yes, inflammation is a huge component of it. So what is inflammation? Kind of chronic inflammation in the body. Well, it's a bruising. It's an emotional bruising. So if you're addressing the emotional bruising, does the body still need to react in a way where it inflames itself? Not nearly as much. Okay, so Lena, I suspect that part of your frozen shoulder is, yes, it's an emotion trying to communicate itself, but it also feels like the body is, there's something dry in there, so the energy is dry. So I'm not sure if you need more omega, because if you're having omega, plenty of omega, it's not that. Like a omega-3, not 6 or 9, it's a 3. So salmon, kind of an oily fish, mackerel, that kind of stuff, makes a difference. Or obviously krill oil, because it's a very high level clean omega-3. If you don't have that as part of your diet, I would try that first. If you already do, then it's not the omegas that's dry. Then it will be hormones. So it will be a hormone level that feels short or dry in your system, and that would normally be probably estrogen levels, where it can then sort of the energy feels dry. But if you're not having enough omegas, go with that first, because something's dried out in there energetically. That's how it feels. Okay. Okay, so Joni, Heidi, I was attacked badly in 2015 and experienced a re-assault gaslight in 2016. I've decided after much personal work since 2014 to start a new relationship, but I want to leave the experience in the past and not project it onto a new partner. What do you advise? Okay, well, being gaslighted and assaulted and all of that, whether that's emotionally or actually, that's going to leave a mark, and that's not unreasonable. Okay, that's not unreasonable. How I would deal with it in a new relationship is to communicate that in terms of a new partnership, is to say, look, I don't want to place this on you, because I know you're not this kind of person, but in my past, I've had, significantly difficult situations, and I want to be able to progress forward with our relationship, but in a neat and tidy way. And I'd apologise ahead of time if you find me testing you. And if I am testing you, please can you highlight it to me, and so we can talk it through. Because I don't mean to, But if I find myself doing that, I need to know, and we need to be able to have a discussion about it so I can feel a new level of trust. And believe me, if that partner is a decent person, they will absolutely 100% support you within that. If they're not, then you'll soon know, and you'll then know that it's not the kind of thing that you want to progress with. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, Beatrice, how can you heal birth trauma due to mother's previous trauma from previous birth, close to death experience giving birth to my brother before I was born? Again, that process that we've done earlier today, go and do that again if you haven't done, if this question was posted before we did that, because again that will be about dissolving that and dissolving that frequency and vibration in there. Because you will have come in with that memory, your system would have come in with that imprint, would come in with that component. So, if you've missed the earlier process, of course, that's separated out and recorded separately from this session, so that you can go back to it and you can go back through it and go and do that again. Or if you haven't done it, go and do it anyway. Because yes, absolutely. We trundle in to our life with these energies as active in a way. It's like everybody does, but they kind of away from it, but doesn't mean to say they're not impacted by it. Okay. Okay, so Nicola, like a lot of the others, I have been working on my growth for years. I'm still dealing with MT abandonment issue and often start the day in tears or sadness and loss. Still feel like an outsider. Will it ever shift? Excuse me. Thanks for your engagement with us all. Yes, it will shift, Nicola. It will shift. As I said on the masterclass the other day, it deeply, deeply saddens me that, and I'm going to get all emotional about this, that in the scores, on the family secret quiz, that we do have circle members, a significant amount of circle members with an ACE score of 10. And the high score is not a positive score. You want a score of 0. And we have some 10s. And that really, really saddens me, that there is cruelty in this world that makes it possible for people to have that high level of appalling scenarios in their as part of their life experiences. Does it go away? Does it all go away? No. I'm not going to lie to you. The core of where there has been some serious amounts of bad behaviour and abandonment and appalling scenarios as part of your early foundation and conditioning, does it all go away? No, it doesn't. What it does do is it becomes imperfectly perfect. What it means is that your level of transformation is higher than the adversity. Okay, it means then that there is a transition point between it becoming the transformation in who you are becomes more than the trauma or the energy of that trauma, that there is enough of that dissolved to kind of cancel out its impact and its effect on you. So it still is there, but it doesn't rule you. So there will be a day, Nicola, there will be a day where that does change, and that changes hugely. I remember for years and years and years doing exactly the same thing, starting the day off in tears, sadness, and a feeling of loss, with huge elements of abandonment, completely abandoned, feeling completely emotionally abandoned by all the family line. And I can tell you now that it's something that is experienced through that family line in terms of my sibling, my cousins. I see some tremendous wounding as far as my cousins are concerned. But they don't do the inner work. And one in particular I can see that doesn't do the inner work at all. And is a terribly, terribly destroyed and wounded person, an individual who will never, ever recover themselves. They'll never recover components of themselves. Because their inner development will never be more than the trauma. So, all of what you're doing, and everything that all of you are doing, I promise you, it will absolutely reach a level someday. I can't tell you the exact day when it is, where the transformation is bigger than the trauma. And I thought that day would never come. I thought that day wouldn't ever come. I thought I'd always be somebody who was identified as wounded, damaged, this or that. But actually, I would say that, my levels have shifted. My sense of self, my sense of esteem, my sense of identity is stronger now than a lot of people who've never had any kind of sensitivity or adversity. So, yeah, absolutely, hold your own faith. Hold your faith, because that day does come. And when that day comes, every ounce of that effort, every single little weeny teeny bit of that effort was 100% worth it. Okay? So I'm telling you now, if you haven't done, my sheet's gone, the shame course, the healing the inner shame freeze course, do it. Because what happens is your internal world becomes frozen, it becomes locked. Okay, it's the freeze. That's why it's called the healing the inner freeze, shame freeze, because it freezes, it stops, and it can't find itself in its motion. So what you're doing is you're freeing that freeze, and that freeze may have been something that's operated through generations. Okay, that's simply what you're doing. You're freeing up that freeze. And you might think, do I really want to go in there, Heidi? It's really quite scary. It's really not... Oh, really? I'm not sure I'm in that position right now. Well, go in, have a look at all the comments, because there's loads of comments in there under that course of what other people thought about it. Should I, shouldn't I? Well, I'm not sure I'm ready. And what their experiences were, that they went in and had a nice surprise, actually, that really it relieved something that they didn't know they had, or they went, wow, didn't know that was in there. And it highlighted something, gave them a new perspective on something, a new perspective on themselves. But most importantly, it freed up that freeze, the lockdown, the part of your system that's just gone, whoa, startled, and finds it hard to move forward, finds it hard to make a decision on moving forward, and you find yourself in that whirlwind of procrastination. So, if you haven't done it, give it a go. Give yourself that chance, give yourself that opportunity. So, a few weeks' time, okay, we have Inspire 2017, Inspire UK 2017. If you haven't yet got your ticket, and you are able to come, it's within a reasonable space for you to be able to come, I want you there, okay? I want you there as a member. I want you there for two reasons, okay? For me, because I want to see you. It's important to me to be able to see you as members once a year, to know you, okay? To know you to know you, because I do this because I share in part of your life, in part of your transformation, and I want to see you, I want to know you. So partly for that reason, 'cause selfishly I want to see you, and secondly, to be there for yourself, okay? Because yes, at Inspire, and for those of you who know, and maybe you've been, I think this is the 10th year. Is it the 10th year? Is it 10th year? I've been doing. Oh no, it's not quite the 10th. It's about the 7th or 8th year, and we're doing it. It's about high levels of your inner transformation, and then you think, oh, well, how do you haven't put the subject areas up yet? Well, they're about to go up. Okay, they're all extremely relevant to you right now. Okay, certainly what's relevant in this 110 frequency and vibration of new beginnings, expansion, and that expansion of consciousness. So title areas are surrendering your inner toxic voice. Okay, so each part of Inspire, I do a presentation, and then I take you through an exercise and take you through a process which you are sharing in person with me, and you're also sharing in person with other members. Okay, so it feels like a very comforting situation, and lots of you have said in the past, wow, it feels like I'm the only person there. I was really nervous. I thought maybe there's too many people for me to process, but actually it feels like it's just part of a true family experience, true family as in true connection kind of experience. So I've got surrendering your inner toxic voice. We've also got, so that's part of your discover, so it's about discovering that component. Okay, we've got the second part is the healing. So this is about going into understanding the narcissist energy. So are they self-centered or a raging narcissist is the title. Healing why difficult people are attracted to intuitive sensitive. So that's kind of going into the core of that energy and the flip side of that frequency, not to put you through pain, but to really dissolve why they're attracted to your frequency and vibration. So if you come across one, it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't impact you in your life, and it becomes something that's just part of life experience. It doesn't mean to say that it has to actually infiltrate your life experience. And then we're going into the transformation component. Okay, so that is the lessons of your past lives, how they contribute to your purpose. Okay, so we've looked at over the last year, as an example, we've looked at some of those epigenetic components of family history and how that has all weaved in and contributed to who you are right now, and dissolving some of those frequencies and vibrations. I haven't looked at some of those past life components. If you look at it from the Eastern philosophies, we have plenty of incarnations, that there is no point to the human experience without kind of learning more, and energy doesn't die, it changes form and all of this kind of thing. So it literally is passing through in terms of different cycles of through the tree of life, through returning to energy, returning to form, to energy, to form. And if that is the case, then we've collected a lot of information through that life journey. So it's not just about dissolving the heavier frequencies, it's also about absorbing some and utilizing and expanding and flowering that strong part of that wisdom that we've accumulated through those lifetimes and of experience, and absorbing those into our purpose in terms of our life moving forward. So that's the third component of Inspire this year. I'll also be doing a reading session. Okay, so the last session of the day would be on me doing some reading. So that's very much about, in-person components and giving you that opportunity, because those opportunities are becoming fewer and far between, literally because I don't have the time to be able to serve all of those who want that kind of experience. So Inspire gives you the opportunity for that to happen. So I hope to see you. I really do hope to see you. I completely understand that some of you are in locations and parts of the world that mean that it's not possible for you to be part of Inspire. But if you don't have an excuse and you are able to, it's a once a year situation. And those of you who come to Inspire UK and you think, well, should I come? I don't know, to come to Inspire UK or Inspire Ireland, or I'd like to be able to do both, kind of thing. Well, if you come to Inspire UK, you get a free ticket to Inspire Ireland if you want to then go to Inspire Ireland as well, which takes place in April. If you want to be able to do the two, that's how it happens. And Inspire Ireland will be slightly different, as always, to what it is in the UK. So, okay, this is really quite amusing. So this just came up. I've got here, Alison came up with this. We're going to get t-shirts with "Flawsome" on them, laugh out loud, as in perfectly imperfect. Brilliant. I think that's good. So thank you for some brilliant questions and a wonderful session, and go back through the process that we did earlier in this session. If you feel that you still got some residue of fear stuff that you carry as a experience in terms of how you came into this world, because dissolving that, or going back in to help yourself dissolve that, will make a huge difference in how you come to that space where you dissolve and heal trauma stored in your system. So have a great evening, daytime, wherever it is that you are, and I very, very much look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.